Welcome to the podcast with Jay Mara and myself, Jacob. It's a movie review podcast, I guess, where we'll watch a movie and then go over what we thought was good, bad, takeaways, anything like that for later analysis from myself so I can kind of figure out what it is about movies that I like and don't like. And yeah, so Jay Mara.
Hello.
Jay Mara, why are we doing this podcast? Or why are you doing it, I guess?
I'm doing it because I watch way too many movies and I don't know. I feel like I'm getting pretty good at figuring out what's going to happen in movies, and I'm trying to see if like everything I say is actually predictable. So these reviews, if I'm actually shocked, then it's a pretty good movie.
Fair enough, fair enough.
You didn't say who I am to you, by the way.
Jay Mara is my girlfriend. We watch very many movies together.
Okay, just wanted to get that out of the way.
Yeah. Like I said earlier, I watch, I've started watching a lot more movies recently, and I've gotten a lot more interested in the whole storytelling business. So, what better way to learn than analyze people that make movies themselves? So, that's what we'll be doing. I should say, I don't think Jay Mara have very many credentials in this whole point, nothing more than really avid lovers of the art. So if we say anything wrong or don't fully understand something, just let us know. But
We're not professionals. We're just movie
right,
lovers.
right, yeah. At this time, we don't really have a schedule set up, so it'll probably be about once every week. I would imagine we could probably get an episode out, but
Yeah.
nothing set in stone. Nothing set in stone right now, and we also don't have a schedule of what movies we're going to be watching.
No.
Although I do have a list of like 50 movies that I do want to watch. So, yeah, if you have any suggestions on those, let us know. But I think that pretty much gets everything out of the way.
I think so. So what's our first movie?
I was going to ask you the same thing. We recently watched Wonder Woman 1984, the sequel to the one that was made back in 2017.
That's right.
Yep. Directed by Patty Jenkins. She also made Arrested Development and Monster, which are two highly acclaimed movies.
I haven't seen any of them.
Yeah, me neither.
Okay.
And this movie was featuring, Gal Gadot, Chris Pine, Kristen Wiig, and Pedro Pascal, which I wasn't expecting, but I think he did a great job. I really liked him. I liked him in
that was.
that was the main villain guy.
Oh yeah. Okay.
I liked him in Game of Thrones. I liked him in The Mandalorian.
That's familiar. I was like, why do I know? Where is he from? Where do I know him from?
Yeah, he's yeah. He's the guy that was like dancing around to get him all cocky when he was fighting in Game of Thrones, and then things took a turn for the worse. Anyway. Yeah. J. Meyer, what would you overall rate this movie out of 10?
Out of 10, I would say I did watch the first movie, and I think I liked the first movie better than this one. So overall, I would say it's about a 6.5 for me.
6.5. Huh?
Yeah. Okay. Out of 10.
Okay. I thought this movie was pretty average. I did watch the first one. I'll be honest, I can't really remember what happened. It was a while ago. I guess 3 years ago. But overall in this movie, I give it about a 5 out of 10, if I'm being honest. There were a lot of goods, but they were honestly equalized out with a lot of bad. So about right in the middle, I think, is what I rate this at a 5 out of 10.
I can see that. How can you
go,
first one? I just want to say that. That's really bothering me.
I mean, I kind of remember what happened, but
okay.
It wasn't my favorite movie. So, before we continue on our review of this, I should say that I don't know about you, Gemma, but I know nothing about the comics or the backstory of
Oh no.
this character herself. So I've been purely judging this movie as like a standalone movie, rather than a standalone like superhero movie, rather than um, knowing all the
Oh, like how
backstory.
like the comics and all
Right,
that
yeah.
stuff.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I don't read the comics either.
All right. Well, moving on, I guess we should go into why we gave the movie this rating. So I guess first off, we should go with like what kind of takeaways or themes the movie had. For me, I think it probably could be summed up better into like one, but I have four different bullet points here that I feel like encapsulate everything, and then they could probably be narrowed down, but I figure I might as well just list everything. So
Okay.
my first one was that there are no free shortcuts in life. I thought that was a pretty prevalent theme they were going for.
I think that was the main takeaway for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Another one, another bullet point was any action has consequences of some sort, whether they're good or bad.
Oh yeah, the monkey's foot.
Yep, that's always a consequence to something. There was a heavy moving on theme, which I enjoyed.
Moving on.
Yeah, like don't get held back in the past.
When? Oh, for her, you mean the main character?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That was sort of like a theme. I felt like, what's up?
Anywhere else? Did you see that, or are you just purely going off of which her character was going through? Because I don't remember that being a theme for anything else.
I think you could kind of make the same point, same argument for the main villain, the guy.
Oh, like moving on from power type thing.
Right, yeah, yeah. So like how it showed, it didn't even show it till like the end of the movie, but how he was kind of like getting bullied and stuff as a kid.
Right.
And so he's like, everything he did in his life was to prove them wrong almost. But he
Right.
never really moved on until after the whole events of the movie.
Yeah, kind of letting go of.
Right, yeah. Uh-huh. Moving
Okay.
on, let go, yeah. And then last one was that power and fame won't always grant you happiness, which I think could be said for both villains in the movie.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, that's all I had for the themes, though. Themes and takeaways from the actual movie itself. Did you have anything else then?
Yeah, I just think that, I don't know, the way that they explained the theme, because for me, I think the biggest theme was the first two that you said. So, especially the monkey's foot, like every action has a negative, like you can't just get what you want.
Right.
There always
Well, I
has
don't know about negative necessarily, but just some sort of consequence, yeah.
I mean, there wasn't a good consequence.
In this movie, no.
Yeah. But just the way that they portrayed it in the movie, it seemed kind of kid-like. Like it didn't seem like a big superhero, theme that just punched you in the face. It was more of like a kid's takeaway. Okay, like we're gonna give it to you soft and slowly. I don't know.
I have that kind of thing later on in my notes here, so we will get to that. We will get to that point. That was in like my bad section, so whenever we get there.
Right, but it relates to the theme, so I was
yeah.
Let's
yes, I agree.
Okay.
I agree. We'll move on to the good parts of the movie first.
Yeah, there were some good parts.
Yep. Do you want to start, or shall I?
Sure. I would say my favorite part of the whole movie had to be the opening scene with Diana as a little girl. That to me was like Wonder Woman. Like you show me that action and her jumping off a ledge when she's like 10. I'm into it the whole time. Like I'm not gonna slow down. Like
yeah, I agree. With that the last sentence you just said, that you're into it the whole time. The pacing was phenomenal. It was a great opening scene, I think.
Yeah, like I wanted to see where she was going, what she was doing. Like I was focused, and I think that was which is sad because that was the first like 5 minutes of the movie. That's the most focused I was the whole movie, and then the rest of it was kind of like, yeah. But on the good part, that was my favorite scene.
And then she got tackled at the very end, and
I know.
she reacted just like a kid would, threw a fit. I liked it. That was a good scene. Yeah. With that, I thought most of the action scenes were pretty good in this movie. Like they didn't feel like they were disorienting or anything, especially when they're fighting and stuff. I didn't feel like lost, which
No,
you know,
no.
I think that's one of those. I think that's one of those like if you don't notice it, then they're doing their job. Like if you can follow it and you don't notice anything, then they're doing a good job. But if they messed up and it felt kind of jarring, then we would notice.
Mhm. I don't know. I just think there are only 3 fighting scenes that come to mind out of the whole movie.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know. I feel like there should have been more, or it should have been longer, because they weren't. I don't know. I have to like think about it, to think about when there was any fighting or any action, because it wasn't throughout the whole
I
movie.
mean, that was quite a bit throughout. I think you had like the rob scene at the start. You had the one where they're on the trucks and they're flying all over the place.
In the mall, that was not a good one.
You didn't like that scene?
No. I felt like I was watching a comic book or something, like an animated movie where she's like flying and flying and flying, and I was like, this is not an action scene. Like this is her like flying around the mall. Like I don't know. It was
That's
cute.
something I didn't think about though that you just mentioned. Maybe that's something they were trying to go for, is like the comic book side of things. Make it feel like that feeling that you said.
Oh, maybe. That would make sense. Then they nailed it.
Let's see, what else did I like about it? Oh, I like that Maxwell Lord. Like I saw he be the main villain guy. He felt like he had his reasons for doing things, and it wasn't like I'm gonna do this because I hate Wonder Woman, and it wasn't I'm gonna do this because I hate everybody in the world. It was I want my business to be successful, and I want to do this for my kid so he likes me. And those both are, I'd say, pretty admirable reasons to do something. You know what I mean? It wasn't like he was like,
He wasn't malicious or trying to do something bad.
Uh-huh.
He was just trying to help himself, just in the wrong way. But yeah, his intentions weren't bad intentions. Like I want to kill all these people. Like no.
I really liked it. The only thing I didn't like about it is that we didn't know. Like at the end of the movie when she's like talking to him directly and like it goes into his whole past, like I said, when he was getting bullied as a kid,
I knew you were
all the way up.
Yeah.
Why is that like the last thing we see about him? You know?
Because then we don't understand him the rest of the movie. Like the whole beginning of the movie, or the majority of the movie, we were like, what is he? Why is he doing this? Like, what is so important about? You know, like it didn't get explained until the very end.
Right. Yeah. I wish it would have been sooner. Is all I'm saying. You know, that's like, it reminds me of Finding Nemo. How at the very start we know why. I think his name was Merlin. Marlin? I can't remember. The dad. We know why the dad is so protective from the very beginning. So then his decisions make sense all the way through the movie.
Right.
It just didn't like you said. It kind of felt like why is he so dead set on this? You know, throughout the whole movie.
Which is why I didn't like his character.
Right,
and like
yeah.
I'm thinking about it now, and it's because I didn't understand. And at the very end, if they put that scene in the beginning, maybe I would have been able to like emotionally connect with him more than I did, because I was just like mad at him the whole movie. I was like, I don't want you to be here. Like I don't understand what you're doing.
We would have understood why he was willing to go to such lengths to do what he was doing.
Right.
Yeah.
And I just didn't connect with him. I think that would have made it better.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree completely.
Favorite character? It was him.
My favorite character?
Yeah.
Yeah, I really liked him. I think Maxwell Lord's. It's hard to say. Like knowing everything, like I said, from the start to the end of the movie now, and knowing why he was doing what he was doing, yes, I think he'd be my favorite character.
Okay.
But just going through the movie as we were watching, he wasn't. I don't really know who was.
hmm
Probably Chris Pine, because he was funny.
That clothes scene was like so funny.
Yeah. Yeah, I like
And
that
then
one.
he ended up wearing the same outfit at the end when
Yep.
it was snowing. I was like, oh my gosh, they did this perfect. That's so funny.
I like that.
Yeah. I did love the geologist character. I forget her name. But for me she was the character that stood out the most to me in the whole
The
movie.
female villain?
Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't
Just
like her.
because she was just, to me, she was just a completely different character from the beginning to the end.
Fair enough. Fair enough, she was, yes.
So it stuck with me the most, I should say.
Fair enough. Let's see other good things. I'll just kind of go quick through these other two. I like the god. It was an interesting underlying villain, I think. How the god didn't seem. I'm talking about the god that was in charge of making the stone.
Oh.
He didn't seem like he was inherently evil. Maybe a trickster, maybe like a Loki type of a character, but not inherently like I want to kill everybody. He literally just was like, here, let human nature do whatever it actually wants,
We
and
never
then
saw
let there
him
be a
in the movie.
consequence. What's up?
We never saw him in the movie, right?
They just talked about him.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I wasn't sure if you were saying that we saw him, and I'm like, I
Uh-uh.
completely
No.
missed that part.
No. No, I'm just talking about the character in general. It was
Right.
it was cool kind of like underlying villain, which I hadn't thought about before in the movie.
Yeah.
Let's see what else. The score, I think that was in the good category. It felt like it fit. There was nothing like amazing that I'd listen to in the car on the way to work or anything, but it didn't really get in the way or degrade from the movie at all. So I liked it.
Yeah. It,
Yeah.
nothing crazy memorable, just it fit the movie.
And then my favorite scene, I think my favorite scene was whenever Steve told Wonder Woman. It was the scene where they're like against like a pillar of a building, and he's like, "I had a great life," is how it starts, and he's basically like, "Listen, like let me go," and I
Like
felt
right
like
before she runs away.
what?
Right before she runs away.
Yeah, right. Yeah, uh-huh.
Okay.
I felt like that was like the climax of her story, right there. Like the final boss battle for her was that
Oh,
that
definitely.
whole thing. Um, yeah.
To me, that's when I felt the most from her.
Exactly. Yeah, that was like probably the only time I emotionally connected with the
Right.
movie. Um, and it felt it wasn't too much of just like telling. It was kind of like showing why, or showing her emotions and such, which I liked. And then her physically like running away, um, taking
Yeah.
action in this newfound truth of that she has to let him go. And then
Right.
and then her running whenever she's giving away or giving up her wish, and she gets the whole Wonder Woman run going where she's on her like tiptoes. I liked it. I thought it was a very good scene. That was my favorite scene.
Yeah, that was a good moment.
I think that about wraps up the good. So let's move on to the bad. And I'll start with what you were saying earlier about the themes. They felt like they were presented in a very childish manner,
Yeah.
and it was as we go through the bad, this is pretty much going to be my recurring um, reasoning. It's that it was given in a tell not. I don't know if you ever heard of the show don't tell um, in storytelling. Um, it seems very much like it was a tell don't show. I mean, how many times did you straight up hear them talk about a monkey's paw or
3 times.
right? Like they were telling us information, and I don't know this for sure, but it seems like a movie that was probably like 4 or 5 hours long when it was made, and they're like, we can't have this. Like, we have to cut it down. So in order to cut out a lot of that time, they were just like, I'm, you know, we'll get into the cheetah after this, but she was like, I'm lonely, you know. Who says, you know, who would just come out and say that to somebody that they were going to lunch with for the first time ever? You know,
I mean,
especially if they actually were. You know, they would try to make it, oh, I'm happy, fun to be with. We should hang out a lot more, in my opinion. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. But regardless, we'll get to that in a minute. The themes themselves were presented in the same way. A lot of the themes. And I feel like that's what made them feel childish.
right.
Because, you know, it's the same way you would tell a child, you know, listen, there are no free shortcuts in life, all right? You know,
Yeah,
instead
they
of showing it,
saying
really.
it. The end was the part where they actually showed it, but
Right.
but they did just keep saying it over and over again, and then I'm like, okay, what do you? I don't know. Like it wasn't enough for me. Like it was just too little.
And I guess that leads me, unless you would like to say what
I
you're
was going to say it also just made me feel like it wasn't a superhero movie. Like it just made me feel like you're talking to me as a kid, and this is just a movie for about feelings for just normal people. Like this is Wonder Woman. Like this is supposed to be like
right,
superhero status,
exactly. Yeah.
and it just wasn't.
I agree completely.
Okay.
Completely. My least favorite character in this whole one was the cheetah. Or, that's the one. They never say her name. I
They
just saw
did
it.
say her name.
Did they say the cheetah? Did they call her cheetah?
I-
That's her. That's her super villain name,
Oh,
which I didn't know. Maybe if I read the comics, I would
she
know
had a
that.
real name too.
Yeah, I can't remember what her real name
I don't
was,
remember what it was.
but I'm gonna call her the cheetah. It just, again, it felt very. Her reasoning for doing things felt very juvenile, and like I said, I feel like that was primarily because all her character was a lot of tell, don't show. The only things that I noticed that made it seem like she was like a quote unquote outcast, a lonely person, where when she stumbled in her high heels walking up on the first day and she dropped her papers. Right? Two little like blunders, I guess you could say, which anybody on their first week of working somewhere could get nervous and have those blunders, I think.
Right.
So it wasn't enough for me to be like, all right, she's lonely outcast. And then I guess the guys walked by and they didn't help her pick up her papers.
Yeah.
Um,
I feel the opposite way, which is so crazy because I think she's my favorite and she was your least favorite. But for me, I felt like I could relate to her. Like she was more relatable than anybody else that they showed because of like she was awkward and she was, clumsy and she wasn't cool. And some people do say that stuff. They're like, if they meet someone that they look up to or they like, and they'll just be like, you're so beautiful or you're just so pretty. Like, I'm not like that. Like, I don't know. I think that actually happens. So I could have related more. I don't know.
It was just, I don't know, some of her lines and stuff, it just seemed very much like they were trying to push that she was.
They'd start pushing after she made her wish. That's when I thought it was like, okay. But I think they had to.
Fair enough. Like I said, I just feel like it was just they didn't have time to go over it. They were trying to do 4 huge storylines all in one 2-hour movie.
You're saying they just could because she said it and they didn't show it over a certain amount of time.
Exactly.
I got you.
She sat down at lunch with her on her first time ever at lunch, and she's like, I can't remember what she was like. I've been bullied. I have no friends. Things like that.
Right.
And it's like, okay. And then, the only reason I didn't really like it is because then her whole character builds into this person that hates like everybody for doing this stuff, and she'll never go back to that way. But at the start, it didn't even seem. Wonder Woman was nice to her. Why is she fighting her at the end of the movie? She's the only person apparently that's been nice to her in her life.
I know.
I mean, it just, I could see it would have actually been just off the top of the head. It would have been better, I feel like, if Wonder Woman ignored her too. Just think of that storyline now. She
Right.
goes off,
Then,
she's upset, she's angry, she
yeah.
wants, she makes the wish. So the same everything. Just she's mad at her the whole time now, and it makes, it builds that tension, I feel like, a lot more than it did without it.
Well, the reason that she was mad at Wonder Woman was because she was trying to take that away from her strength and her appeal to men and all that. Because if Wonder Woman succeeded, she'd go back to being a loser, quote unquote. And she didn't want that. So that's what made Wonder Woman the villain, because she's like, okay, now I'm pretty just like you, and you want to take it away from me.
Yeah, I could see that. Like I said, it just wasn't enough for me to be like, it just didn't seem like enough of a reason for that.
Right.
Maybe that's just me though, but
I can see that.
let's see. I guess it's going a little long now. We should start wrapping up. The last two things, the pacing was slow at times, and this was a real long. It was a 2.5-hour movie. If you're gonna go that long, you have to have so much packed into it that it never feels like there's a dull moment.
Right, like the opening scene, like it should have been like more in your face, like catch up kind of thing. When
exactly.
It was more slow and human.
Exactly. I agree. That first scene was definitely a strong point for the whole movie.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing was, and I think this has to go, like I said, along with the timing issues. I didn't feel like I had a real deep emotional connection to anybody in this movie at all. You said you really liked the cheetah lady,
I did.
Which fair enough. But I didn't. Maybe that, like I said, there's no time. I didn't buy into the problems they were having, like any of them really. The only one was the main bad guy, the main villain guy. His problems I could see at the end of the movie after I explained all his stuff. That, and whenever Steven, the scene I was talking about earlier with Steven, Wonder Woman, like letting him go.
Right.
Other than that, you have 2.5-hour movie here that I just, can't really connect to.
I think I agree. Timing was a huge issue with this movie. They just put their energy into the wrong scenes, in my opinion. They spent more time on like what was happening, but not explaining to us why it was happening. Like we didn't grow with them. It was just they were there, and then we saw what they did.
Exactly.
So that's something I would want them to change.
So I guess that moves on to this final segment, what we would change about the movie.
Right.
Would you like to go first?
That's all I would mainly change is just I want to connect with the characters more.
Right.
And I want to be into it. I want the opening scene to be like the whole movie, and I want to be into it, and I want to know what's happening. I want to feel what's happening. I want to know why they're doing what they're doing. Right. And yeah, I need it to be more superhero, less human. Like that's what I would change.
I agree. For me, I would rewrite all of Chia's storyline.
No, she's my favorite character.
I like where they were going with her. I really do. I think it's a really good overall. Like, she's this bullied person. Nobody likes her. She gets power. She's not giving that stuff up for nothing. Period. I like that. I like that. That's a. Okay. It is a character arc, but it just wasn't. I just don't feel like it was written properly. Little things, like I said, like have Wonder Woman not talk to her, something like that.
Yeah.
Let's see. Like I said, make it like the theme and stuff more show, not tell. And I would actually, I think there's too much story in this. Like they're trying to go too big and too long. I would either cut more stuff out and really the parts that I had just really focus in and like fine tooth comb pick them and make them perfect, or I'd make a second movie, a two-parter, something like Avengers, Infinity War, or
Okay.
Hunger Games. You know, could you imagine if they cut off right whenever um, the villain guy won, and he's talking to everybody and it cuts? Then we gotta go to another movie, figure out if she actually can
That
stop
would
them
be
or
so. I'd be like, okay, let's see the next one.
right. Yeah. You know. So two-part movie, and you know, this is nothing. I mean, this was already the second movie. You know,
Right.
they're making. It seems like they're gonna make a third one now.
Right, because
So
the cheated girl, she didn't give up her wish. So
it didn't seem like she did. She could have, but it definitely didn't seem like she did. So
right.
yeah, that's all I would change really. But hey, you know,
Okay.
overall, about a 5 out of 10. We had about equal goods and bads for me in this.
Overall, if you saw the first one and you're expecting this one to be better, have less hope.
Less expectations.
But if you're watching it, if you're still gonna watch it, I would say it's not a horrible movie, but you're not gonna want to rewatch it a ton of times.
Yeah.
It's fine to just see it the once so that you can see the next one and then hope for the best on the third movie.
I guess it's sort of like a background movie. You come in at any point in time and understand what's going on. Yeah,
Yeah, that's it for me.
that's all I got. Anyway, this was fun. We look forward to doing more, I'm sure. Like I said, if you have any suggestions for any movies we should watch next, or what we should invest our time into, or any improvements we could do, let us know.
Yeah, and keep in mind that we're not professionals. And we just like watching movies. So don't forget that.
Anyway, that's all I got. Thank you for listening.